We've got this far in the course without actually defining what JavaScript is. I like to say it's part of the Three Musketeers. And what do I mean by that? Let's think about what the three core elements of every single website are. Can you guess? I'm sure you must know at least one of them. HTML, that provides the basic structure of a website. CSS is used for the presentation, formatting and layout. And of course we've got JavaScript, which is used to control the behavior of the different elements on the page. Now I just want to go over each one individually in a little bit more detail to help you understand the roles that each play on a website. And then once we understand that, I'll give you a practical example of how it all fits in. So let's start with a good old HTML. HTML, it's at the core of every single page. And that's regardless of the complexity of the site or the number of technologies involved in building that website. And it's an essential skill for any web professional. And it's a starting point for anyone learning how to create content on a website. And luckily for you and I, HTML isn't that difficult to learn. But let me break it up for you. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And what do we mean by markup language? Well, rather than using a programming language to perform functions, HTML uses tags, aka markups, to identify different types of content and the purposes they each serve to the web page. So these tags, these markups, have pretty intuitive names. We've got the heading tags, we've got the paragraph tags, anchor tags, image tags. I can keep going on and on. And every website, every web page is made up of a bunch of these HTML tags, denoting each type of content on the page. Makes sense, right? And each type of content on a page is wrapped by these HTML tags. So that's HTML. What do I mean by CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Think about it this way. The HTML provides the raw tools to structure content on a website. CSS, on the other hand, helps to style this content so it appears in a nice way. It appears in a way that you and I intend it to appear on the screen. And these languages, HTML and CSS, they're kept separate from each other. And that's to ensure the websites are built correctly before it's reformatted. You could look at HTML as the drywall and CSS as the paint. So all those colors and background images, yep, it's all thanks to CSS. And CSS, this language, it affects the entire mood and tone of the website, making it incredibly powerful. And it's a very important skill for you and I to learn. And remember what it stands for? It stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And what do we mean by style sheet? Well, that refers to the document itself. And every web browser has a default style sheet. Right? So every single web page has at least one style sheet. And this is awesome to understand. So whether or not you've got a separate .css file, every single site you have has a default style sheet. So for example, my browser's default font is Times New Roman. So if I visit a website where the designer didn't apply any styles of their own, I will see Times New Roman. But obviously the vast majority of websites I visit don't have Times New Roman. That's because web designers started out with a default style sheet and then they overrode that with their own custom CSS. And that's where the word cascading comes into play. And a lot of people compare it to a waterfall. You know, it's waterfall. You can imagine a huge waterfall. You know, I'm in Africa, sitting at Victoria Falls. You can just imagine this beautiful waterfall hitting rocks on the way down. But only the rocks at the bottom affect where that water will eventually end up flowing. And that's the same way with CSS. It's only the last defined style sheet that informs my browser which instructions rule over other instructions. And lastly, we have JavaScript, okay, which is more complicated than HTML or CSS, and it wasn't released until also mid-90s. And nowadays, JavaScript is supported by all modern web browsers and is used on almost every site on the web. So JavaScript is a logic-based programming language that can be used to modify the content and make it behave in different ways. Easy examples are confirmation boxes. You know all those boxes that pop up on your screen? A site that you've entered where it's a login form, okay, and a confirmation box asking you to press OK or cancel. That was made possible because of JavaScript. What about call to actions? You know, when you're scrolling down a site and those annoying boxes pop out to the left asking you to do something or buy a product or click something? That's JavaScript. What about storing information? When you fill out a form and you write your name, and your name's Wally, and at the end you purchase a product and you get a message saying, "Thanks, Wally." Well, my friends, that is also JavaScript. That is exactly how JavaScript is used on sites. And you can get very complicated with JavaScript. It can be good for security. You can make games with it. You can create special effects with it. The list goes on. Let me now give you a practical example of what JavaScript is and how it fits into a website.